Today there will be no chatting, because today we are going to get some work done, said Grandfather. Are we? Replied Jules, his grandson. Yes, we won't say a word. We will not utter a single word. Okay, I'll do that. No, that's precisely what you mustn't do. We have to be quiet. I have to be quiet. You have to be quiet. The whole house has to be quiet. Even the chest of drawers? Even the chest of drawers must be quite quiet. Absolutely still. The table has to be quiet. The chairs have to be quiet. The picture hanging on the wall has to be quiet. Slightly crooked, perhaps, but absolutely still and quiet, because now we have to get some work done. Oh, that will be wonderful. So I like it when it's peaceful and quiet and you don't have to talk all the time. You talk all the time, Grandad, and a lot. That's because I know so many things, and I just have to tell others about everything I know. Sometimes people don't even have time to listen to what I have to say, so I have to write it down, like right now, for example, where I have to write a Christmas tale. And it has to be a completely new one. Do you understand that, Jules? No, because I'm only 4 years old. Do you know what a Christmas tale is? I don't think so. Do you want me to explain it to you? I'm about to put clothes on my teddy bear. Oh, okay. You just carry on with that. I can easily explain something to you whilst you do it. Do I need to be quiet then? Yes, you start off by being quiet, and when I've explained what a Christmas tale is, then I too will sit quite still, okay? There are, you see, very specific rules for a Christmas tale to be a Christmas tale. And the first rule is that a Christmas tale always has to be about someone who's not doing very well. If they're ill. Yes, sometimes they're ill, sometimes it's because they are poor, or sometimes it's because they owe a lot of money away, or perhaps they have nowhere to live. Have you heard about Mary and Joseph? Well, they had no money and nowhere to live. They only had a donkey. And Mary was pregnant and about to give birth, and they had travelled for many days, and they were tired, and they didn't know where to lay their weary heads, but then they found a stable, and there she gave birth, right in the middle of a haystack. And just as things seemed to be as bad as they could get, it turned out that she had given birth to baby Jesus, who was God's son. Is that true? I've heard it is, and there was a star that shone on them, so 3 wise old men who knew absolutely everything were shown the way straight to the stable, and there they gave him presents and said, "Congratulations!" And then the shepherds came, and everyone was so enchanted by the little baby Jesus, and that was exactly on Christmas night. And now we get to the second rule, the second ingredient to create a Christmas tale. Something good must happen to someone who is in distress or struggling, someone who is suffering, who then gets well. You mean like someone whose knee hurts and then suddenly it stops hurting? Yes, there's an example, a good one. The only thing is, a bad knee is perhaps too small of an ache for a Christmas tale, not quite dramatic enough. Does it have to be so painful that you cry? Exactly. In a Christmas tale, it just can't get too painful. And now we need to be quiet. Exactly, Jules. I will write, and then you can play with your teddy bear. No, I'm not playing. I'm getting him dressed. That's it. It mustn't catch a cold. Shh, Grandad. About catching a cold, actually freezing. Have I ever told you about the bumblebee who by mistake was born in Greenland in the middle of the icebergs in the middle of the winter? Do you want to hear about it? No, not really. Okay, then we will leave it where it is. Was it upset? Yes, it wasn't easy for it, as you can probably imagine. Bees need to gather nectar from the flowers to make their honey, but there were absolutely no flowers to be found amongst all that ice. Just snow and snow and snow. Did a Christmas tale then come along and help it? Jules, you are full of good ideas. Oh, however, just like these, bumblebees are just too small for a Christmas tale. Okay, well, then we better keep quiet. Yes, better leave it all to Ping. Was it called Ping? No, have you never heard of Ping? Or of the country where Ping decided everything? Was that in Greenland as well? Not quite Greenland, but it was somewhere not too far from there. I think you're lying, Grandad. You're absolutely right, my boy, I am. But never about Ping. Who is Ping? Ping was, because Ping may not exist any longer, but once upon a time, in the country where the great Ping did exist, the Ping who had created everything, every tiny leaf, the grass, straw, every star. First, Ping came, and then he created everything else. It was Ping who had invented the whole country. What did he look like? You couldn't see him. Where did he live? That one did not know either. But one thing was sure. It was he who decided everything. Weren't they allowed to decide anything for themselves? Nope, not even a little bit. Ping kept them busy. He decided when they had to brush their teeth and when they had to enjoy the view, when they had to mow the lawn. It was he who said when they had to read a book or pay a bill or take the car to the garage. One couldn't see him, but one heard his voice inside, crystal clear. Water ski to America, you could hear it say, or try one of those delicious cream cakes. There were, of course, people who couldn't hear him, but then they could see him instead, or at least an image of him inside their heads, and if he smiled upon them, they would be inclined to go dancing or go and get some potatoes or even exclaim, "Hooray!" They would do that? Yes, they actually felt joyful about it, and they would say, "Oh, it's a good thing we have Ping, for it is Ping who paints the apples red and leaves our hair to grow. Can I please play now?" Oh, I'd rather you didn't, because now the exciting part of it begins. One day it happened that Ping stopped deciding everything. He simply disappeared without telling anyone where he had gone. He disappeared from inside people's heads, and they could no longer hear him nor see him. Oh, well, that wasn't very nice. No, Jules, that was not good at all. But it will become far worse, because now certain people felt inclined to believe that they knew exactly what Ping would have said and wanted, and no matter what they came up with, they would say that they were speaking on Ping's behalf and that this was exactly what Ping wanted them to do. Was that not cheating? No, not even a little bit. On the contrary, they said they thought it was very important and serious and true, and because they spoke on Ping's behalf, they were right about everything they did and said. Well, what did they decide then? Oh, they made so many rules. He who bicycles must always keep his chin up and smile. He who buys cornflakes must wear a specific hat, and he who sings in the shower must send a postcard to all 4 corners of the world. And once a week, they could do nothing but stand and look out of the window. Anything else would be a disgrace or considered naughty. What did they have to look out of the window for? I think they had to look out for Ping and think about Ping and try to figure out where he was and wish that Ping would appear to them with a light within their heads or a sound within their ears. What sound, Grandad? The sound of Ping, the best sound they knew, the sound that had created the flag, the motorway, a sunset, the sound that would send soldiers to war and make chickens lay their eggs, the sound that was as dear to them as a mother's voice. Grandad, I really have to get my teddy bear dressed. Oh, why? Ping told me to. You're right. Let's be quiet and get to work. Sigh. Sigh. Are you upset, Grandad? No. It was the bumblebee. You could just hear that. Can't you say that it got saved by a Christmas tale? Oh, no, it's too small to be saved. It has to be about humans who are in trouble. They have to be poor, oh, ever so poor, and then someone comes along and saves them. The bumblebee! Why are you all of a sudden so obsessed with the bee? Because it's up there on the ice and it must be just freezing. Okay, let me see what I can do. 1 second. So, it could just be, and it may just have happened that a fairy came and saved the bee. Do you think that's possible? Yes, let's tune in. The bumblebee sitting there freezing and thinks to himself, oh, now a flower really could come my way. And then there's an icicle crystal that starts growing and becomes an enormous flower. And then the flower becomes a fairy who says to the bee, oh, my dear little friend, what on earth are you doing here, drifting along to no use? Ought you not to be busy somewhere? Somewhere where you can serve the greater good? Don't you know it's Christmas? Now I will fly you off to Van Loose, where an old lady is having trouble finding her glasses. Why don't you have a little look around and see if you can help her find them? And bumble zum, bumble zum, bumble zum, bumble zum. And then the bumblebee found itself in the window-sill where an elderly couple lived. It quickly noticed the glasses lying, hiding right behind an old flower pot. It started screaming enthusiastically. Zzz, here they are! Zzz, here they are! I found them! Zzz, they're right here! To the old woman, of course, it just sounded like zzz, 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 zzz. Ah, listen to that, Eric. Can you hear that? Ah, now it's almost summer. But her husband shook his head. That is nothing but a Christmas fly. And he grabbed a newspaper so he could bash it. But just as he was about to do exactly that, he saw the glasses lying there. Look what I found for you. That's where your glasses were. Oh, my dearest, what would I do without you? And then they forgot all about the bumblebee, whose attention was now on a big flower in the windowsill, and it started to suck its sweet nectar. But, Grandad, did they not even realize that it was the bumblebee who had found the glasses? No, they didn't have an inkling. That's what I tried to tell you earlier. The bee is way too small to be noticed in a Christmas tale, because you wouldn't even notice its miracles. Oh, thank you, Jules. You've just reminded me to notice the importance of the small miracles. That is what makes every day, and not just Christmas, miraculous.
Wonder of wonders, miracle of miracles, God took a Daniel once again, stood by his side, and miracle of miracles, walked him through the lion's den. Wonder of wonders, miracle of miracles, I was afraid that God would frown, but like he did so long ago in Jericho, God just made a wall fall down. Moses softened Pharaoh's heart, that was a miracle. When God made the waters of the Red Sea part, that was a miracle too. But of all God's miracles, large and small, the most miraculous one of all is that out of a worthless